All right, what's up, my friends? Welcome to the Kamigawa Alchemy set review. 30 cards. It's a small set. It's going to be all one video on YouTube and one long session on Twitch. And we're doing a set review of all 30 cards in the new Alchemy release. Now, I know the arena economy sucks. I get it. It's awful. And their announcement yesterday sucked. I get it. Alchemy is a really fun format, and I'm very unhappy it's so expensive to play. I get it. I understand. Leave your ire in the comments. Don't direct it towards me, please. But it's still a very fun format. There are still new cards. I'm still going to review them. It's my job. I'm a content creator. So I think Alchemy is really, really fun. The economy blows. Whatever. Let's go. Going over all the cards. We're only going to do best in show for each color because there only are like 5 cards of each color. So starting out here with Dragonfly Pilot. Pilot. Fly. 1 mana for a 1/1. When it ETBs, you conjure a card named Dragonfly Fly Suit into your hand. Now, what's Dragonfly Suit? I can show it to you if you really want to see it. It's a 3-mana vehicle that, hold on. 3-mana vehicle. It's not on this thing. All right, whatever. It's a 3-mana vehicle. It's a bad common vehicle, but obviously if it's free, then you get a 1/1 that's kind of cool. This card's all right. The problem is that vehicles just aren't very good. Dragonfly Suit's not very good. A 1/1 for 1's not very good. It can crew things, but I think vehicles as a whole are kind of a failure as a theme. It just doesn't really work. You know, is there a good vehicle you'll play in your deck like Smuggler's Copter? Yeah, absolutely. But is building a vehicle deck a good idea? Probably not. So kind of a cute card. I do love the conjure mechanic, but all in all, not very exciting. Not very exciting. Moving on to Fragment Reality. 1 white for an instant. Exile target non-token artifact, creature, or enchantment. Its controller puts a random creature card with lesser mana value from their library onto the battlefield tapped. I think this card's pretty bad. If you think about it in Historic, this is similar to Isolate, where you can just exile a Dragonrage Channeler or a Llanowar Elf with no downside at all. But Isolate already does that. And on basically anything else, if your opponent is getting something off of this, it kind of sucks, so I hit their whatever 2-drop. I don't freaking know. Their Dreadhorde Arcanist or whatever, and it turns into a Darcy. That's like not good, So I think this card's kind of cute. It's cool. You can target your own stuff. It's not tokens, but all in all, this feels like the drawback's a little too high for me. It is if you just absolutely need to kill something. If it's a certain creature or enchantment or artifact that like needs to be killed to break up a lock or to break up whatever. But I don't know why it needs to be this efficient, basically. It feels like kind of Swan Song-esque, where if you need a card that's like super efficient to break things up, sure. But you can just play Disenchant. You can just play whatever, else otherwise. So I think this card's kind of iffy. And again, you can't really use it on yourself because you can hit your 2-drop into a 1-drop. That's like not really good. So I think this card's a bit of a bust. It's kind of a cute design, but I think the drawback here is a little worse. It's kind of like Chaos Warp, I guess, in red, but it's just unless your opponent's playing only 1 creature every deck, then sure. If they're playing a control deck and they only have Leer, this card's fine. But again, like at that point, just play a more versatile card. It doesn't need to be a 1-mana card. Again, the efficiency here is not necessary. Not necessary. So up next is Inchblade Companion. And this one's actually pretty sweet. This card, are we going to do it? I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to do it. Best in show. The white cards aren't great, to be totally fair. There's only 5 of them. But this card's super sweet. 1 mana for an artifact creature. It has a lot of value where it's a 1/1, it's an artifact, it's an equipment, which is kind of cool. Just played a deck on stream with with Plate Mail in this card in Alchemy, which is super cool because it counts as an equipment. And then it's just an artifact. It's cheap. And then when you put this over on something else, you can copy it, make another 1/1, which is kind of cool. Kind of a cool synergy card. If there's like a cheap artifact aggro deck, maybe like a Tempered Steel deck or a Venerated Loxodon deck or an equipment deck that wants it, this card is certainly very, very playable. Card's cool. Card's cool. I like it. Card's sweet. So, best in show, Inchblade Companion. Up next is Kami of Transmutation. Kind of a weird one. 2 mana for a 2/2 Spirit. When it ETBs or leaves the battlefield, choose one. Each permanent card in your hand perpetually becomes an artifact or an enchantment. All right. this is a really weird card. The effect is rather powerful. So especially for artifact, think about like affinity decks with Thought Monitor and stuff like that. You can make all your cards and lands into artifacts. That's like kind of cool. But this card isn't an artifact itself, and it's realistically just a bear, which is kind of whatever. And then for enchantment stuff also, and you run into the problem where, say you build a deck where you're going to make everything into an artifact. What happens to games you don't draw this? You probably are already playing a bunch of artifacts to make your Thought Monitor good anyway, thereby, why do you need this card? Kind of thing. So, same problem with enchantments. We're playing an enchantment deck. We want to make our, Hallowed Haunting really, really good, but we already have a bunch of enchantments to make that good anyway, so this card is just weird. The effect is somewhat powerful, but overall, it doesn't feel particularly good to me. It's kind of just a cute effect. And our last card in white is Moth Rider Cavalry. Now, like I said, I'm only doing best in show. I'm not going to do trap cards and stuff like that. But I think this card is a lot worse than it looks. So this card is a part of a cycle where there are 4 mana value creatures that cost 2 less if you meet a condition in your hand. So this one's condition is if you have no other creature cards in your hand except for Moth Rider Cavalry, this will cost 2 instead of 4. So the problem with this card is, obviously if it costs 4, it's terrible. End of story. If it costs 2, it is actively good, but not like incredible. And then the way to break this card, and all of these cards obviously, is to try and play a deck that contains none of the type that would make it cost more, so it always costs 2. So in theory, you can play this card with token makers, right? Raise the Alarm and Wedding Announcement and, whatever. The problem is the strength of tokeny decks is that spot removal is often very bad against them. So, I have a Fatal Push in my hand. You play a Raise the Alarm. I don't want to Fatal Push your 1 soldier or your 1 soldier. I just feel bad about it. So it kind of stinks. But a Cavalry here dies to almost every removal spell in the format, but like Portable Hole or whatever. And once they have that kill spell in their hand, they don't want to use it on a token. Now they actually have a target for this. So, and the payoff isn't even that good. It's a 2/2 Anthem for 2, which is good, don't get me wrong. But it's killable, it's bloodable. And I don't think there really is like a tokeny deck that would want to play this card. Because especially at Historic, a lot of decks that want to play a lot of tokens also want to play like Polymorph or whatever, or Indomitable Creativity, and do something like that too, as part of the benefit of playing only tokens and not actual creatures. So I think this card's kind of a trap. I think it's a lot worse than it looks. It's kind of cool, and like you could just play it as the top of your curve, like a Weenie deck, which is reasonable. But all in all, I think it's just okay. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's super exciting. I think the 1-drop from earlier is much more playable in various spots. While the 1-drop from earlier might be a little more niche, it actually successfully fulfills a role. Whereas this card, I think, is just like not really there on rate and doesn't really have a home either. So yeah, and historically, you can play Bench Marshall kind of thing. Same idea. So that's white. And we're going to move on to blue here. Again, all one video, all one stream. And let's go. All right, so blue. Our first blue card here is Better Offer, which is just a really adorable card. A blue and an X, sorcery. Put a random creature card with mana value X or less from target opponent's library onto the battlefield under your control. It perpetually has base power and toughness XX and perpetually gains ward 1. So the downside here, of course, is that I tap 5 mana for this and I get a 1-drop out of their deck, which kind of sucks. The upside is it'll at least be a 3/3, which is kind of cool. This is the kind of card that's more fun than good. It's a very fun card. It's a very, very cool card. But the creatures in your opponent's deck are rarely going to be ones you want to put in your own deck. And you're always getting a mana value loss here, because it always costs 1 more than the creature would actually cost. And Ward 1 just ain't really worth it. This card is fun. This card is cool. This is a really fun card to just play. It's definitely like a cool card. We played it in a deck earlier. It's just like, it's definitely a very fun card, but it's not a very good card, unfortunately. It's not a very good card. It would be a really fun limited card, but that's not really in the cards. Right? All right, moving along to our next card here in Experimental Pilot. Once again, stop trying to make vehicles work. It's not going to work. 1 blue for a 1/1 with Ward 2. Pay a blue, discard 2 cards, and draft a card from Experimental Pilot's Spellbook. Now, of course, the draft mechanic, I think, is freaking awesome. Really, really cool. Let's take a look over here at the Spellbook. So we see here the options of the Spellbook are Cultivator's Caravan, which is a pretty good equipment, honestly. I mean vehicle, pretty good. We got Bomat Bazaar Barge, not a very good one. We've got Raiders Brett Favre, reasonable card here. We got Demolition Stomper, a huge chunky chunker. Futurist Sentinel, another big chunker. Mecha Titan Core, which is obviously an adorable card, but not a very good card. Bank Buster's great. Great card. Great card. High Speed Hover Bike is fine. Solid, fun, exciting. Mining Mech is actually pretty good. Submersibles, it's fine. It's okay. Mobile Garrison, not so great. Untethered Express, only okay. Dragster, only okay. Dragster, not great. And then Thundering Chariots, also not great. So the problem here is that vehicles just kind of suck. And same problem with the white one drop. I don't know why I want to discard 2 cards to get some crappy vehicle. I'm not sure why I'm playing 1 mana for a 1/1. And then I'm also not sure why I want to have Ward on my 1 drop. This card just blows. And vehicles are already bad. It just sucks. It just sucks. So, moving on to our next card here. We've got Futurist Spell Thief. 3 mana for a 3/2 flash. When ETBs, conjure a duplicate of target spell into your hand. That card perpetually gains, you may spell mana to cast a card of any color. I don't know what I'm going to do with this card. So they cast, an end step Memory Deluge, and then we cast this and just get our own Memory Deluge. That's not really that good, because they already cast the Memory Deluge. If this card was, cheaper, and it also, bounced the spell back, kind of like a Narcissus Reversal, I think this card would be really, really good. It would need to be, less power and toughness, but that could be really, really cool. But as it stands here, I just don't think that this card is very good. Even so you copy a Thoughtseize, or you copy a whatever. The fact is that spell still goes off. You don't really stop it, and then you're in a spot where you have to work really, really hard to draw a card that they already cast, and then also cast it yourself too, which isn't very good. So, body's not great, the ability's not great. It's kind of a cute idea. I like Conjuring a lot, but not really too good. Kind of a miss here, kind of a miss. Up next is Holographic Double, 1 blue for a 1/1, and this is basically not even a card. This is just a card in your hand. You can pay a blue and get a copy of a creature in your hand. I can see Merfolk wanting a card like this, because all you're trying to do is just draw as many, Master of the Pearl Tridents as possible, which is kind of cute. But all in all, cards that give you more of what you already have in a very narrow way typically aren't very good. It's a cute card. If there's a deck that wants to have multiple copies of its creatures for whatever reason, like Merfolk might be a good example, it could be kind of cool, but all in all, just not a particularly great card. Kind of interesting as a deck building tool, but kind of whatever. Up next is Cybia Siphoner. We got Best in Show here in the blue entry into the 4-drop cost less cycle. This 2/2 flash for 4 or 2 if you have no instant sorcery cards in your hand, which is hard to do. When ETBs turn an instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, if it would die, shuffle it in. This card's not super great, to be totally honest, but it's fine. It does seem like it would play well, kind of like a Bernie blue-red sort of deck, where you kind of empty your hand, you bolt here, you bolt there, and then you end step, pop this in, pick up a play of fire, hit them with it again, be kind of cool. The mana cost is awkward. Again, it's going to be hard to meet this condition of no instant sorceries, because if you're playing a lot of those, you typically want to have a full hand. But I can see a more aggressive, maybe Delvery deck wanting to play a card like this. But again, it's not super great. It's just okay. If it had flying, maybe it was a 3/2, a little more power to it, it could be a lot better. But all in all, not a super exciting card. Probably best of the bunch of blue. There are good cards coming, I swear to God. There's a lot of really cool black cards. I like a lot of cool red cards as well. So we're getting there. The white and the blue cards are honestly not super exciting. To be totally honest, full disclosure, usually the white cards are bad, but the blue cards are good. Not really this time. Not really this time. Definitely no Snapcaster Mage. And then our last blue card is Semblance Scanner. 3 mana for a 3/1. It's an equipment with reconfigure. Whenever it or a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, if it's not a token, conjure a duplicate of it into your hand. So, this card is kind of cool. In theory, you could have a Cesar Connoisseur in play, and you could play this, equip it, attack. But then you have to play it, equip it, successfully attack, and your payoff is once again putting a duplicate copy of it into your hand. And a lot of these cards, I was saying, that's just not a very good effect, just getting another copy of a card you already have. Just play another good card in your deck, because the fail state of this is it does actual nothing. The fail state of putting another good card in your deck is it might not be the exact same card, but it's still a good card you put in your deck, you know? So it's a 3-1. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool because it can draw cards in theory. It's like a 3-1 that can, like, if it hits them, do stuff. Again, drawing more copies of this card isn't particularly exciting either. So be a fun limited card, but again, can't do that. So I don't know. Not a great card. Not a super exciting one. And honestly, blue all in all. Well, blue and not white, not very exciting here. However, black is solid, and we're going to do that. I'll do that right now. All right, so our first black card here is Consuming Ani. 4 mana for a 6/6 flying menace creature. It's a big one. It's a boomer, all right? However, there's a catch. At the beginning of your end step, a random non-land card in your hand perpetually gains when you cast this spell, you lose 3 lives. This is kind of like your big, dumb mono black aggro curve topper. Again, I don't really think this card is good enough. There are mono black aggro decks, but they already have cards like Spawn of Mayhem and some other curve toppers as well that are safer to play than this and more reasonable. It's also a Ogre Demon. Wait, what does Power Word kill? Doesn't kill angels, dragons. Judge, Power Word kill. Power Word kill. Somebody help me out. Does Power Word kill this card? Non-devil, non-dragon. Non-demon. Okay, so Power Word kill doesn't kill this. Okay, that's good at least. But yeah, in Historic it dies on Holy Heat. In Historic you have Rankle as well. And I just don't really think there's like a black aggro deck that wants this in Standard. The cards aren't really there. The cards in Alchemy especially are pretty grindy too. So this card is kind of similar to Blood Tithe. Not Blood Tithe Harvester. Blood Tithe. Blood Vial Purveyor. You know, similar idea. Big, dumb idiot with a pretty bad drawback that can win the game for sure, but the drawback's pretty serious here for sure. So if there's a deck for it, this card is certainly playable, but I don't think there is one currently as it stands. Decent card, but not super exciting. The drawback is very, very real. Our second card here is Kami of Mourning, and this card is really cool. 3 mana for a 3/2. When ETBs, target you control or in your graveyard perpetually, that's forever, gains the ability, whenever a creature you control with greater mana value in this card dies, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This card's really cool, right? So we play this, we target our 2-drop, and then, the Kami dies, the 2-drop comes back. Later in the game, play a bigger creature, that dies, 2-drop comes back. So really, really sweet card. I could definitely see potential combos for this. I don't know if there are any. I haven't really thought about it too much. But with all the kind of sacrificey, Deadly Dispute-y black decks floating around, this card could definitely have a home. Definitely not going to be as good in less grindy matchups, but Alchemy is pretty grindy. So the card is certainly sweet. I like it. Is it good enough? I'm not sure, honestly. There are a lot of good black cards in black. This one's the kind of one where I'm like, it's cool. Maybe not, but super sweet card. Definitely a super cool design. Moving on to Painful Bond, and I mean, it's not even close. 2 mana for an instant, draw 2 cards. Then, cards in your hand with mana value 3 or greater. Perpetually gain, when you cast a spell, you lose 1 life. If only we had a reason that we wanted to build decks in Historic with cards that only cost 2 or less. I can't really think of one, but if there is one, this card slots right in pretty good. 2 mana, draw 2 cards is obviously awesome. Painful Truths. Night's Whispers, a card that sees play in Vintage. 2 mana, draw 2 is like kind of like the baseline. Like that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So very powerful card. Definitely should play in Alchemy also. The Rakdos decks, can play a little lower curve. Meat of Massacre costs X's too. A card like Bloodthirsty Adversary. There are upper end curve cards you can play that have a mana value of 2, which is awesome. And even if you lose like a life or 2 off this, like if you lose 2 life off this, sure, whatever, it's fine. Being an instant is huge. This card's super sweet. Card's awesome. Probably the best card of the entire Alchemy set to go around. Card's really, really good. It's fun. It's funny that this card might actually see more play in Historic than Alchemy, but real good card. Real good card. Painful Bond. Up next is Soul Servitude. 3 mana, free mana for an instant. Target player sacrifices a non-token creature. When they do, you may discard a card. If you do, conjure a duplicate of a sacrifice creature into your hand, and you can cast it no matter what. Again, conjuring duplicates just isn't very good. I don't know why there's such a strong theme here. This one's cool if you kill something really, really good, but it's an edict, so you aren't necessarily going to do that. You know, if your opponent plays Goldspan Dragon and this is your response, that is pretty cool. You know, you use your own Goldspan Dragon, but again, it just goes to your hand. You still have to cast it. You're probably a worse Goldspan Dragon deck than they are, and they got to discard a card if you want it anyway. So it's not like it's card advantage or anything like that. So this card's kind of weak. Soul Shatter just is much better, much better. Definitely metagame dependent in that if there's decks this happens to be really good against, it could be a card, but all in all, I think it's just too weak. I think this card's just a little too weak. And our second to last card here is Swarm Saboteur. This card's cool. It's mana for a 2/1 Death Touch. Whenever it deals damage to a player, conjure a card named Virus Beetle. Those who know what Virus Beetle is, it's a 1/1 for 2. It's an artifact creature, and it's a Ravenous Rats. Makes your opponent discard a card. And of course, a card that plays very well with ninjas. And this card's sweet. Just card advantage. You just keep playing Beetles over and over again. And I don't know if this card will necessarily find a home, but it is a very, very solid card. Even just casting this card's fine. Just a 2/1 for 2 with Death Touch. Blocks pretty well. Can attack through some stuff. As long as you get one Beetle off it, you're in great shape. Because you're in 2-for-1 territory. It can be better than that also. Super solid card. Like it a lot. Cool card. Very, very cool card. And our last black card here actually is a little underwhelming to me. 2 mana for Undercity Plunder. It's a sorcery. Kind of a Him Batorok variant here. Target opponent discards a card, and they may discard an additional card. If they don't, conjure a duplicate of a random card in their library to your hand. You can cast it no matter what. This one's a little weird because it gives your opponent a lot of agency. Where if they have a crappy card, discard whatever. And then the problem is, even if they do allow you to have the card, it might just hit a land or like something totally random, you know. And there's also the problem of if you're playing too many of these, now your opponent's empty-handed. This is just a 2 mana, no flashback, Siphon Insight, which is also not great. So I think this card's going to play worse than it looks. It's a cool card. Stealing your opponent's shit is fun, but it's not often good because it's just so high variance. And again, you usually won't be able to use your opponent's cards as well as you will. I think this card's only okay. I think I think it plays worse than it looks. It's fine, kind of cool, but overall somewhat unexciting. And let's move on to red. All right, moving on to red here. We have a Goblin and a Madness card. I'm a little sad in previous card. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little sad. I mean, come on. So of course, Mono Red Madness and Historic is a deck that I played a lot. That I put a lot of work into. That was super, super awesome. This is a 1 mana Goblin for 1. Modified creatures you control have Menace. That's probably not going to come up. But the most important card here is when it ETBs, you may discard a card. If you do, seek a card with mana value equal to that card's mana value. And again, seek is to just draw a card out of a certain subset of cards. So you get to draw a card that costs the same as the card you discard. That's great. So I discard a Basking Rootwalla or a Blazing Rootwalla. I get an Unholy Heat or a Darcy. I discard a Fire Temper. I get a Season Pyromancer. Of course, you could just hit another Fire Temper or whatever, but it's still a powerful effect for 1 mana. It's a good discard outlet. We can see this in Phoenix decks maybe. It's a creature, not a spell, but a lot of power here. It slots right into Mono Red Madness and has potential other places as well. Card's super sweet, and you know what? I think I think so. I think it's best in show. Best in show here. I think mostly based on the fact it just slots into Mono Red Madness really, really well. And if you're just looking at discard cards, it does it pretty cool. Card's good. The other red cards are fine. None of them are super, super exciting. So again, there's only 6 cards here in red. So best in show is not like this is the best card ever printed, but it's a solid card. So that is your Artillery Enthusiast. Again, really, really. That was a character arc. I know. I didn't pre-plan my best in shows. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. I'm caught red-handed. Eh? Next card here is Bellows Breath Ogre. 3 mana for a 3/3 with a mechanic called Starting Intensity. So it starts at 1. Whenever it attacks, it deals damage equal to its intensity to any target, and then perpetually increase the intensity by 1. I don't know why this card couldn't just be in paper. But sure, whatever, I guess. Just an okay card. You know, the kind of card that'd be like really good limited, but it's not like it gets any bigger. You know, you would think that maybe like it gets like a plus one counter and then deals damage equal to that or something like that. But so you tag with this card, it deals 1 damage or something. Then next turn it deals 2. Next turn it deals 3. That's just a lot worse than most of the other 3-drops out there. There are a lot of good 3-drops. Out there. And I don't think this one does enough here. There's some easy way to give it haste, maybe, but all in all, a card just doesn't really feel good enough for constructed, honestly. Up next is Forgeborn Phoenix. Cool card here. Red 1 for a 2/2 flying Phoenix. It is a equipment as well, and when equipped, it gives a creature flying. And then whenever this or the equipped creature dies, it perpetually gains. Whenever an equipped creature you control deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, return this card from the battlefield tapped. So another Phoenix here. It also looks like it's flying an Ewok. Am I seeing that wrong? Maybe I am seeing that wrong. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just seeing Ewoks everywhere. And the Phoenix conditions here are a little rough, right? So this goes to the graveyard. It has to actually die. You can't discard it to a looting because it needs to perpetually gain the ability. So as it stands, most Phoenixes are good because you can dump them and then get them back later somehow. This one can't do that. You got to play it first. And a 2/2 flyer for 3 isn't very exciting. The ability is kind of cool. I like Phoenixes. I actually really like the equipment creatures that reconfigure. And the fact that it's so cheap to equip is kind of cool. But all in all, it feels like a miss to me. It feels like a miss. Just don't think that the red decks, again, want this. And that's kind of the problem with these alchemy cards is that, like, there's just, like, they're all rares. They're all meant to be for constructed. And they're all, like, 3-mana 3/3s and 3-mana 2/2 flyers. You know, like, where there only is room for so many 3-drops in a format. And I just think this one does not make it. So, moving on to our next card here, Foundry Beetle. This card's good. This could also be best in show, honestly. This card is pretty solid. It's meant for a 2/2 first strike, which is fine. It's an equipment and an artifact, which is very, very good. Again, being an equipment is very relevant for some things. Being an artifact is very relevant for some things. The ability here is that at the beginning of your upkeep, a random artifact card in your hand perpetually gains 1 less to cast. That's pretty cool, honestly. Not going to always matter, but pretty solid. Pretty solid. And then it can reconfigure to give things first strike. That part matters less than most. But very solid 2-drop. Could definitely see play if, you know, being an artifact matters, being an equipment matters, or you're playing a very artifact-heavy deck. Don't know if there's really a home for it, but super solid card. Super, super solid card. Up next is Junkyard Scrapper. The mana for a 3/3, as most of these cards are. For a non-token artifact, ETBs under your control. Exile a random non-land artifact card with lesser mana value from your library. You may cast that card till the end of your next turn. This effect is pretty powerful. So I play a 2-mana artifact. It gives me a random 1-mana artifact in my deck, and I can play it that turn. That is pretty cool, but I don't really know what deck exactly wants this card. Again, the problem is that typically your artifact deck wants to play a shitload of artifacts. This is not an artifact of itself, or in of itself. And then the fact that you must cast it like Light Up a Stage style, like that immediate turn is, I'm sorry, end of your next turn. I misread it. Oh, that's not what I thought it was. So it is actually Light Up a Stage style. So the end of your next turn. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. This card's cool. I misread it as that turn. But even so, you don't get paid off immediately. I tap this 3/3. If I get to untap, play an Anvil, go get a Synthesizer, and then play the Synthesizer or whatever, that's pretty sweet. But it just the initial costing here just doesn't seem very good. It's kind of cool, though. Kind of a cool card, but I just don't think it's very good. Molten Impacts here, 2 mana for a sorcery, 4 damage for a creature or planeswalker, which is honestly fine in and of itself. If excess damage was dealt this way, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, it'll deal the excess damage to whatever the target is. So this is kind of cool. So it feels bad to have like a lava coil in your hand or whatever. Your opponent plays a 2/2 for 2. You have to kill for whatever reason, and you just like wasted your damage. Well, this thing can store it up for later, which is kind of cool. So kind of a cool card. Not much different than the other cards that do this. I think Thundering Rebuke is legal right now, or maybe it's not legal. I don't even know. But this card would see play without the extra text already, and then with the extra text, it is pretty good as well. So honestly, this might be best to show here for red. This card's actually like super solid, but just a good card. Just a good card, nothing crazy. Just a good solid card. And that's it for red. Green is up next. All right, our first green card here is Boseiju Pathlighter, which means we got to get our little drafty guide up here. So Boseiju Pathlighter, 3-2 for 3. ETBs, draft the card from the spellbook. Well, we'll go over the spellbook here. Spellbook includes a lot of lands. We've got Field of Ruin. We've got Bonder's Enclave. Pretty good one, actually. We got Radiant Fountain, which is great. Love Radiant Fountain. Thriving Grove for some fixing. We got Treasure Vault. We got Gingerbread Cabin. Memorial to Unity for a little card advantage, which is great. Boseiju. Secluded Courtyard. Roadside Reliquary. More card draw, which is awesome. Scavenger Grounds. Emergence Zone. Kalani Garden. District for creature land. And then Hall of Oracles for a little weird, spicy fixing and sorcery stuff. This card's good. This card's good. This is basically a 3-2 comes into play and just draws a card. That card will often be good and obviously tailored to what you want. Played a cool ramp deck earlier. This card was super sweet. Again, same problem as a lot of these alchemy cards where it's just like a 3-mana card that like there just only is room for so many good 3-mana cards. But card's solid. Card's very solid, and I think it definitely is possible to see this card could see play. Card is good. Card is good. Solid card. Definitely, there are a lot of cards I wish was in the drafting spellbook. You know, Blast Zone would be pretty cool. Field of the Dead, probably not, but a lot of possible options. And just a cool card, honestly. Cool utility card, cool card advantage card, reasonably sized, good rate. Solid card. Up next is Chronicler of Worship. Stop trying to make shrines happen, all right? This is a pretty good shrine card, truth be told. So, 1 mana or 2 mana for a 1/1 that taps for any color. When it ETBs, put a random shrine card from among the top 7 cards of your library into your hand, and perpetually gains spell cost 1 less to cast. So, if there's ever a card that will make shrines playable, this is it. This is definitely it, because it is a mana fixer, it is a ramp card, it is card advantage, and reduces the cost of a shrine. So, really trying hard to make shrines happen. The problem is the shrines aren't very good. The ones in standard are terrible. But the ones in historic are actually pretty good, but it's just like not good enough there, you know? So it's a fun card. I'm sure I'll play it. I'm sure I'll build around it. Super cool thing to have. But probably won't matter constructed like serious wise, but it is a cool card. It's definitely a sweet one. And, I'm happy to throw a bone with the shrine players because the shrines in Kamigawa and Dynasty were so freaking bad. Moving on to Forceful Cultivator. Gonna call it best in show here. This card's pretty good. We have the green entry of this cycle. Red, and 2. What was the red entry? There wasn't a red one. What the hell? There wasn't a black one either.
Somebody's playing a prank
Whatever.
on me.
Well, it's a cycle. There you go. 4 mana for a 2/3. When it ETBs, Rampant Growth. And then the kind of fun joke here is that if you have no lands in your hand, cost 2 less to cast. Now, that's not hard to do with all the spell lands. So, of course, the MDFC spell lands don't count for this because they're not a land in your hand, which is kind of sweet. And the card's just solid. A 2/3 for 2 that ramps you is insane. That's really good. Even if you cast on turn 4. So you just like play your last land, cast this, ramp, play a 2-mana kill spell. That's pretty good too. So it's mana fixing, it's ramp, it's a decent body. Card's really good. Card's super solid. You know, requires a bit of commit to green, obviously. It's going to cast it on turn 2, it costs green. But super good card. I like it. Quite good. Up next is Jukai Liberator. Also a really good card. This one's also a 3/3 for 3, but it has a little more going on as well. This is a ninja card. This is the card that Ninja of Deep Hours always wanted to be. So we get the ninja here for 2. You get a 3/3. And instead of drawing a random card, you can choose to seek a land or non-land. So whatever you need, it'll draw you. This card's real good. The problem, of course, is finding a deck it functions well in. Deck's going to have a lot of 1-drops probably. Nice low curve. But really powerful card. Very unique effect. Definitely the best ninja in the format, probably. Definitely probably. And card's really good. Card's really solid. And even just for value, you know, even if you attack with like a City Stalker Connoisseur and bounce it and play this thing, it's pretty sweet. Yeah, I am a little sad that this is so much better than Ninja Deep Hours that blue is like not even a ninja color anymore. But c'est la vie. C'est la vie. What are you going to do? Kami of Bamboo Groves is here. 1 mana for a 1/1 enchantment creature spirit. When it ETBs, you may put a land card in your hand on the battlefield tapped. You can channel it to conjure 2 basic forests. This one's kind of cool. It is much, much worse than a Boreal Grazer is because a 1/1 does not block as well as a 0/3, obviously. But the fact this is good on turn 1 or turn 4 is pretty sweet. And the problem with a card like this is that, like, once you hit turn 3 or 4, it's almost worthless as a way to play extra lands because you just don't have extra lands at that point. But 3 mana for an instant speed, draw 2 cards isn't bad, honestly. It isn't bad. So, kind of a cool card. Probably needs a pretty specific deck to be good in, but this is the kind of card I like for my Alchemy sets. It's a cool cog. Some decks might want it. Kind of narrow. It is pretty cute with ninjas. I had an opponent today go, turn 1 this, put a land in. Turn 2, play a 3rd land, attack with this, and then ninja the Thoughtseize Ninja, which costs 3, which is kind of cool. But yeah, cool card. It's also an enchantment, which is kind of sweet. I don't know the flavor here. Apparently, the Kamis give you the blessing to be an enchantment. They aren't enchantments themselves, but this is. So it does feel like the quality control on these alchemy cards is a little bit lower than usual, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then our last green card here in Runaway Growth is another Intensity card. 4 mana for an enchantment aura, goes in a land. And then whenever the land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green for each intensity number there are. So the first time you tap this, it taps for 2 green. Then it's 3, then it's 4, and so on and so forth. That's not good enough. It's kind of cute. It's cool in that, like, yeah, the idea of it gets bigger and bigger is pretty sweet. But 4 mana for a Rampant Growth is just not good enough. And it's also an enchantment, which is pretty vulnerable, honestly. Your opponent can kill us with a lot of ways. If I tap 4 mana for this, don't even get to use it, my opponent kills it, that's awful. So I think there are better ways to ramp in the format. I honestly rather just like hard cast the Cultivator or play like a Quandrix Cultivator than this because it's also on the board too. So this one's a little iffy, not super great. If it cost 3, it would be off to the races, but at 4 mana, not very exciting. Not very exciting. And then our last card is a single multicolor card. And let's pop that off here. And whoop, there we go. And it is Imperial Blade Master, which is a 3 mana 2/2 double strike, which is pretty good. Whenever a Samurai or Warrior you control attacks alone, draft a card from the spellbook. Well, let's take a look at that spellbook, why don't we? All right, see what's going on with this card. On rate alone, this card is certainly pretty reasonable. You know, 2/2 double strike for 3 is certainly okay. Now, when you attack with it, Samurai alone, you can get an Exemplar, which is pretty good 2-drop. So, you know, it's limited power level, but Subduer is also okay. Katana's not very good. Self of Samurai is pretty good, honestly, pretty solid card. The Poet here. We got Aki Ronin, another okay 2-drop. Imperial Samurai, another okay 3-drop. We got the General here. We got the Asari Captain, which is okay, Curve Topper. And you go Uprising, which is a pretty weird card. Eater of Virtue is really good. Weak card there. Sunlight Samurai is also fine. Reinforced Ronin, which is the 1-drop artifacty creature. Adamant Will, which is a trick. And Tempered in Solitude, which is honestly a fine card. This card's pretty good. All of those cards are very reasonable. They're not good, but it's a bunch of reasonable 2-drops. They're all very reasonable cards. This card can draw you a card every single turn, immediately starting turn 3. The Samurai deck is pretty bad. Overall, but a card like this could go a long way towards making it somewhat reasonable. It's 2/2 for 3 with good stats. It can draw a card every turn you play it, and then it can keep drawing cards, which is awesome. This card's good. This card's very, very good. And I like this sort of this element from Alchemy of like buffing up a bad archetype with kind of a cool new card. That's sweet. I like it. Yes, best in show for multicolor. It's also the trap card and the sleeper card because it is the only one of its kind. That's it. That's the whole set. So quick little set review here. Only 30 cards. A little weaker than the last one, I think. There are some good cards. There are some stinkers as well. Blue and white were really, really bad. So we'll see. We'll see. These cards are legal in Alchemy and Historic. We'll see what kind of impact they have. I think Alchemy is really, really fun. We're going to play a lot of these cards on stream in the future. So that's it. You're all great. I love you all, right? YouTube folks, love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all the usual stuff. 5 new brews set me up on YouTube as well with my 5 new decks playing a bunch of these cards, which is super, super fun. All my set championship stuff is on YouTube as well. And Bronze Mythic still finishing up in there as well. And yeah, YouTube folks, love you. Like, comment, subscribe. You're all great. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.